adapting to a place, adapting to a new culture, adapting to new surroundings, new people is part of success for everybody. I see so many students who come to our institutions and don't adapt well enough, complaining about everything that they think, should have been like what they knew it should be. And then, start getting bitter, not, mixing with people and keeping themselves aloof. And that is how all these mental stress issues and other things start. There are also, we are all a product of a lot of things. Though one can take credit for everything and, get into the mode of, no, I can do anything sort of a thing. But I think at the end of the day, the success is never alone. I mean, you cannot achieve success alone. So many people, so many instances, so many, the circumstances, everything plays a role.
Welcome to Inspire Someone Today podcast, a show where we dive into the stories and insights that has the power to create ripples of inspiration in your life. I'm your host Shrikant, and I'm thrilled to be with you on this journey of inspiration. Hey, my dear listeners, welcome back to yet another episode of Inspire Someone Today. From a small town in Telangana, studying in Telugu-medium, to leading some of India's most prestigious institutions. My guest today is a testament to what's possible when curiosity meets persistence. Professor V. Ramgopal Rao has been at the helm of IIT Delhi and now serves as Group Vice Chancellor at BITS Pilani. Along the way, he has authored over 500 publications, holds more than 50 patents, and has been recognized globally for his contributions to nanoelectronics and academic innovation. But behind the titles and accolades is a boy who once dreamed big in a small classroom, a teacher who still believes in the magic of curiosity, and a leader who is reimagining what Indian universities can become. In this conversation, we'll explore Professor Rao's early beginnings, the mindset that shaped his journey, lessons from global academic exposure, his vision for Indian universities, and what it means to do meaningful research in an AI era. It's an absolute joy to have Professor Rao join us on this episode of Inspire Someone Today. Welcome to the show, Mr. Rao.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on the show. It's indeed an honor and privilege.
Professor, like I mentioned, from an humble beginnings to a lifelong learning, we'll start right up there. You studied in Telugu-medium through your schooling years, a journey many might underestimate. What are some of the challenges and hidden strengths that shaped your foundation, Professor?
Yeah, I think, we don't have a choice on many things in life, right? Where you were born and, all of that not in our control. So I was born in a lower middle class background, but in a family which valued education. I think in Kolhapur, which is in Telangana, right now it's in the Nagar Karnool district, a small little town and very backward. In fact, that entire Mahabubnagar region is known for hunger kind of deaths, very prominent in the state for its poverty. I think so coming from that kind of a background, born there, I did whatever I was supposed to do. We were all sent to government schools, and this being a very remote area in Telangana, at that time it was combined Andhra Pradesh, of course. So there were no teachers, there were no proper classrooms, and so things were not great. But I think coming from my family background, I knew that I have to study. I have no other thing to fall upon, and only education will make me get a good job and settle down in life. So there was no other looking at any other thing other than doing well in education. So I think that in our family was always there. My father was a lawyer, of course, but in that small town, lawyers really don't make so much of money. And ours was a joint family with always some 15 people in the home. And so those sort of things existed. So I had a very nice childhood, I should say. I mean, we used to play, have fun, and very strong family ties and visits to relatives. And so all of that was fun. And But the education, I did very well. There was never any issue with my education. In fact, in 10th, there were only 2 students who passed out of my village. I was one of them. And in 12th, again, similar kind of a thing. And but the Telugu medium thing was the only choice we had. When if I needed English, I would have gone to, or I would have needed to go to Mahbub Nagar, which is a district headquarters. And then it would cost more money. I have to stay with someone else, and those kind of challenges. And so, but after I joined for my BTech in Warangal, I studied in Kakatiya University in a college there. I mean, it was difficult because there was nothing common between what I was learning in my BTech and what I have studied in Telugu. For example, electron. Now, what is electron in Telugu? You need to map it. Is it Paramanu? Is it? There were so many names at that time. So the everything was a problem. I mean, our Telugu was real Telugu. They were not using electron as electron. Electron had an equivalent word in Telugu. So that was how much of Telugu we learned, and just mapping just those very basic concepts was not very easy. IITs, BITS Pilani, these were all beyond my reach. I had no idea about IITs in school because I did not even hear about IITs. And if for a Telugu medium student, all these English examinations are still in English. I mean, IITs have introduced Hindi much later, but my Hindi is again was never good. So that way, I had no option of going to anything outside, what was affordable, what was nearby. That's how I started. But it was also a great learning. It also gave me confidence. And first year I struggled, and there were other family challenges. I lost my father when I was in second year, so I had to miss examinations and then reappear. It was a lot of those kind of challenges too. But I came out in flying colors. I did very well. I was among the best students that my teachers, remembered out of that college. And then I joined IIT Bombay for my MTech. And that was my turning point. I think once I joined IIT Bombay, there I could see, where I stand. Because even in Warangal, everybody was from the same state. It was all okay. But in IIT Bombay, everybody was good in the class. And the master's MTech in microelectronics is where I registered, where I got admission. And there were not many students in those days in MTech microelectronics, some 12, 13 students, but everybody was a gem from representing so many states. And I could still do very well. My professors liked me, and they said, we should, they helped me to, find my interests and nurtured my talents. I discovered myself in IIT Bombay. I mean, if I had not gone to IIT Bombay, or rather, if I had not taken the decision to go to IIT Bombay at that time, I think, I would have been somewhere doing something, but I wouldn't be where I am today. I think that institute, that way I owe a lot, the master's program there, which made all the difference to my career, my journey, my aspirations, and my discovery process too, because I did not even know what I was good at. I was just going with the flow. You do BTech, you get a job, right? And but I wanted to do MTech at least so I can get a better job. And so my idea was to do MTech and then get a better job. But then, the way it turned out, I thought I can do much better than finding a job after MTech. I also realized that I am very good in research. I published a paper in a top American journal at that time. Even now these are very popular journals, American Institute of Physics journal. And so I got recognized for that work. And so I think there was no looking back. Once I figured out what I am good at, once I figured out that, I am as good as anybody else, and there was no looking back. My aspirations only grew, and I wanted to learn everything that is available in my area. I wanted to be the best in my area. So that's how the whole thing started, basically.
So that was fantastic. The line that caught my attention is there was no looking back. And if you look at it, there's no looking back from the boy from the Telangana school to Warangal, no looking back from the young man from Warangal to Mumbai. How did each of these shape? I'm sure that's a big gap, big chasm to fill from a local vernacular language to English, from being familiar with your own state to completely going to a different state. So how did you kind of develop these traits of resilience, develop these traits of, okay, I have this gap, but I'm not sitting and complaining about it. I'm going to do something. And that's exactly what you did, right? You didn't look at the shortcoming, but you turned it out into what you wanted to do. How did you go about doing all of this?
I think that adapting to a place, adapting to a new culture, adapting to new surroundings, new people is part of success for everybody. I see so many students who come to our institutions and don't adapt well enough, complaining about everything that they think, should have been like what they knew it should be. And then, start getting bitter, not, mixing with people and keeping themselves aloof. And that is how all these mental stress issues and other things start. In my case, I was able to make friends. I was also, I'm still, I believe, I'm a very helpful person. I'm not a very, what do we call it, arrogant or selfish, or what one characterizes as a bad person. I'm always nice to talk to and always pleasant. I'm a good friend, and my friends are all 30 years, 40 years now. I've been friends with people, so I think people trust me. I have some very close friend circle from those days, and I think that is very important. I think to stay humble and to treat everybody with respect. To in our thinking, we can be aggressive. I might want to become whatever I want to, but that need not reflect in our actions, right? I think that I did not have any biases. I mean, I am always been reading enough, and I have enough, I have a perspective of life, so that I can detach myself, but I can be very involved in things. I think that some of these are important characteristics which help one to adapt. If you're seen as a person, who nobody wants to talk to, then of course, you become negative, and then you also don't treat people well. And fortunately, I think my joint family background and my background of a remote, a rural kind of a background where the entire village knew everybody and where everybody, was pleasant to everyone else. Of course, there was rural politics and rural issues and all of that, but everybody knew everyone, and our family was very highly respected. And I think, I always been good with people, and people have been good with me, and that stood in good stead wherever I went. I could, make friends, and I was always in a good company kind of a thing. I think that helped me to adapt to whether it was Warangal, because Warangal was a big city for me, coming from a very rural background, and Bombay was, unthinkable. In between, of course, I did a few other jobs because I lost my father in my second year, so I had to support the family and all that. So in between, I took up a few jobs here and there, but that was not, that was only temporary. For that moment, I needed to earn some extra money, so I did that. But my goal was to do master's at in a top institution. I did not want to settle for any second tier two kind of an institute. So therefore I decided until I waited until I got into IIT Bombay. But that was a good decision I made, because my bachelor's, was all whatever I could get at that time, because given my background, we did not even have a maths teacher for a long time. We did not even have a chemistry teacher for a long time. So there was MSET examination in Telangana at that time. So I think whatever I could do, with given those restrictions, I did. But I think that was also the reason why I wanted to go to the best institution in the country. And once I went there, then, everything fell in place. So I think adapting to surroundings needs, is up to you, right? I mean, we can keep blaming everything around us, or we can blame ourselves. So in my case, I was good enough to adapt to, any place that I went, which was good.
That's a wonderful perspective to have. Blame yourself or adapt to the circumstances. And what I also see all through while you had those hard knocks come at you is that clarity and the purpose. So, what inspired you to become a teacher and dedicate your life to education and research? Where was these pivotal moments, superior clarity and purpose?
I think it was again IIT Bombay. Yesterday, I posted a long note on LinkedIn about my teachers at IIT Bombay. The three people I learned from. And I think if I had not come in contact with some of them, I again would have taken up a job in some institution. I would not have gone academic side. I would definitely have joined an industry, and so that would have happened like all IIT Bombay microelectronics students. But once I came in contact with some of these finest individuals, great human beings, and then things I wanted to be like them, and but to become like them, I needed to do PhD. So then I went to Germany to do my PhD with a fellowship from German government, and then I went to US to UCLA for my postdoctoral research. And but I was always in touch with my teachers, and I wanted to come back. And that is when, because my teachers also, of course, liked me in IIT Bombay. I was a good student, and I wrote paper in my MTech itself, which was very rare, in a top journal, and so they were also happy with me, and I wanted to come back. And the day they offered me a position, and within 3 months, in fact, I would have come back the next day itself, but my wife stopped me. I mean, so we waited for 3 months, and then I joined IIT Bombay in August 1998 as a faculty member, and in the same group, which taught me, which nurtured me, and I had the pleasure of working with the same people who I respected, and as colleagues, and it was all great. I mean, everything fortunately worked out very well for me. And there are also, we are all a product of a lot of things. Though one can take credit for everything and, get into the mode of, no, I can do anything sort of a thing. But I think at the end of the day, the success is never alone. I mean, you cannot achieve success alone. So many people, so many instances, so many, the circumstances, everything plays a role. And in my case, maybe I was destined to be what I have become eventually. So I think I could see at various points in life, coming in contact with the right people, getting the right sort of environment to grow. And I think, maybe as they say, luck favors those who are prepared and all that. But in my case, I think I owe my success to so many people, the good, great institutions I have been part of. Of course, many people also started like me, had all those opportunities, but did not make use of those opportunities too. In my case, I made use of every opportunity that came my way, and I gave my best to everything I did. It was never a half-hearted attempt. Wherever I worked, I felt that is my calling, and that is where I will spend my rest of my life. And I never thought that I'm here. I use it as a stepping stone to do something else. That was never the case with me. Whatever I did, it was always for me the last journey in my life. The reason why I left IIT Bombay to join IIT Delhi as the director was out of frustration. I felt that these institutions can do things very differently and do things better. And I thought, why is it that, we don't have academic institutions with the standing of, let's say, Stanfords and MITs and all of that. And I thought IITs are, best placed to achieve some of these goals, given their structure, autonomy, and all of that. So I was actually frustrated. As a professor in IIT Bombay, I did very well. I was a top professor in my area with a lot of international recognitions and all of that. And, all I collaborated with all top semiconductor companies in the world. I licensed technologies to them. So all of that, was going very well for me. But my thing was, whatever I could do individually, and I thought, why can't institutions do as a kind of a group, right? Why can't more people, do things like me, translate technologies, see the impact on the ground, collaborate with industries. And so my goal was always, what can institutions do, to facilitate that entire process, so that what I could do individually, there should be 1,000 faculty doing that in all institutions. So I wanted to lead by example. I wanted to see or show, what institutions can achieve if these journeys are pursued at the institutional level, because there are so many great people in all our institutions on the faculty. But very many a time, what happens is the institutional support is missing, and institutions, many a time there are leaders who really don't care. It is just a 5-year job for them, and then a way to show their power and enjoy those pleasures that come with power. So that's how the leadership positions have unfortunately been in the country. But I wanted to change some of those perceptions, and I think I believe we did a major transformation at IIT Delhi. I mean, if you look at anything that IIT Delhi is doing now, before and after, I can see a gradual step, kind of a jump in almost every activity. So I think I'm satisfied that we were able to achieve, given that I spent 6 years as a director. So in that time frame, whatever I could achieve, which is physically possible in a large institution like IIT Delhi, given all the restrictions, the ministry is put, and being in Delhi, there are other such challenges one needs to deal with. But I think that we could see that transformative potential of the institute, and we definitely utilize all of that potential to transform the institute. I think the numbers speak for themselves, and I'm happy that my from going from Bombay to Delhi served at least that purpose.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And definitely you're seen as one of the preeminent institution builders in the country. And that kind of brings me to the next point in our conversation, which is very dear to my heart as well. You did make a reference of it, Professor, that IITs versus the Harvards, the Stanfords of the world. And that is where I would want to kind of draw your attention is they have been a catalyst for change in how Indian universities think about innovation and institutional excellence. What's your vision for the future of our academic institutions, academic ecosystems? When do we be compared on the same breadth as the Stanfords, Harvards, more consistently, more regularly? What needs to be done? What is missing today? What do you see as the future for our academic institutions?
Yeah, in fact, I have been writing about this when I write op-eds in Times of India. I have written many articles for Times of India on the institutional transformation that is required. In fact, in one of my articles, I said the 1991 reforms in opening India's economy, we need 1991 kind of reforms in the higher education sector. I think that is long overdue now. And Indian institutions, the way the ministries manage these institutions is pathetic, to put it mildly. There is no plan, there is no financial model, and there is no administrative autonomy. And ministry, somebody in ministry, telling all these institutions what to do, how to do, and all of that is not going to take us anywhere. I mean, unfortunately, things have only become worse now compared to what it used to be. And but I don't blame anybody for that. The issue is with the bureaucracy. The issue is with lack of understanding on the political class on how to unleash this huge power that we have, the strength that we have in our university system. I think it needs many bold reforms. I have written about it. And one of the things is, can you believe there is not even a financial model to run the institute? Now, IIT Delhi would not know until until March, rather, what money they would get in April. It's that bad, right? Now, if I don't even know what my budget is going to be for the next year, what planning can you do in terms of any kind of an activity? And these budgets are all, basically to support, the student scholarships and the building fund and salaries and pensions. That's it. IIT Delhi doesn't have any money left after that to undertake any activity. And that is, one big challenge right now. And if I start some new programs, right, and if I admit some new students, right, they will not have a place to stay because there are no hostels available for them. And student education is subsidized up to 93% in IITs because IIT Delhi revenue from tuition fee is about 6 to 7%. So 90% of subsidy comes from Government of India. And now this subsidy is not linked to number of students. IIT Delhi, how much money IIT Delhi gets doesn't depend on how many students IIT Delhi has. It just depends on the salaries and pensions and that kind of a thing. Now, institutions have no motivation to start new initiatives, start new programs, admit more students, and it's business as usual, right? I mean, if I do anything differently from last year, I need to worry now, how do I sustain that activity? And so that is what our institutions have gotten into. I have written articles, I have written letters to ministry on developing a financial model for our institutions. The first thing, in fact, one of my very recent Times of India articles was on that, more outcome-based, kind of funding, right? Just to look at, how many students IIT Delhi has, right? And how much it costs to educate a student, right? Per year, right? Per student, what is the cost of education? And now you decide how that money will be met, right? If you don't want to burden the student, which is good, then the government money, the subsidy is linked to the student's expenses, right? How much it costs? About 6 lakhs per year per student to educate a student at IIT Delhi. It costs about 6 lakhs per year per student. And now, government can say, okay, you pay 1 lakh rupees, I will subsidize it for the remaining 5 lakh rupees kind of thing. But then, so if I have 1,000 more students, then my budget also will go up by 1,000 multiplied by that 5 lakh rupees. So that way, I would keep expanding. I would keep starting new programs. I would do so many other things now so the institutions can expand, right? And otherwise, you can say, okay, you go and get this money from industry. If you get 100 crores from industry, I will match, that money with some overhead component. I will give you, 50% of it from my side as 50 crores. So the more money you get from industry, the more money will come from the government of India. Then the institutions will go out, aggressively pursue with industries, and industries also know that their funding will be matched by government, so they see a value in that, and then that activity can grow. If I license some patents, some technologies, right? If government says that whatever licensing fee you earn, I will match you that kind of a money, then institutions will go aggressively. I think, we need to link the funding to the outcome parameters. How many students am I admitting? How many students am I graduating? How many papers have I published? How many patents have I licensed? How many industries I have collaborated? The moment you do that, right, then the institutions have a direction. The ones which are doing well, will keep doing even better, and directors have a mandate, to earn more money for the institute. And then, things will actually happen. Right now, nothing like that happens. And right now, the funding is decided by, sit across the table with whoever is the secretary. Many a time, even secretaries don't participate in those discussions and look at, what is the salary bill, what is the pension bill, what is the scholarship bill, and just give that money. Okay, 30, 40 crores per campus maintenance. That's it. That's how the funding is done. What does it take to transform this? Nothing, right? It just needs finance ministry or today PMO, to sit with these institutions and develop a financial model which is more outcome linked. That is the first thing that we need to do. Otherwise, 23 IITs today admit how many students? About 17,000 students. That's all in undergraduate level. And for that, 1 million students take the exam. We admit 17,000 students. They should actually be admitting 20 times that number of students. But then where is the money to actually admit that many more students? Why can't IIT Delhi have multiple extension campuses in India, right? This is a campus in Sonipat, right? On 50 acres of land. We had a campus in Jajjar, right? But there is no money to develop those campuses. We could have started those campuses as extension campuses. Both of them fall in Haryana, right? And you could have made them, equivalent of IIT. Delhi is a brand name, and under that, you can start many new programs and start so many new activities, but there is no money, right? So who will fund if government is not funding? There is no autonomy to increase the fee, right? And government doesn't give you money. And how would you run these institutions in that process? If you look at US University, Stanford, right? Stanford gets its money from a very diversified sources. Stanford is a privately run university, but tuition fee is only 20%. There is endowment, right? Stanford has, one of the largest endowments in the US. 30% of their expenses are met from the endowment fund, right? Why is it that we are not able to create endowments in our institutions? I tried to create $1 billion endowment at IIT Delhi. Policies again. Our policies for incentives, the tax structures are not amenable for anyone to part with their money. We don't encourage philanthropy in this country, right? I mean, what people don't really gain anything here by giving money to an university, right? Whereas in US now, either you give money during your lifetime, whatever you earn, or government will take it away. Their inheritance tax, their tax structures, all of them starting foundations, giving money to these social causes is because of the structure of the way the tax laws are designed in that country, which encourages philanthropy in that country. So Stanford gets almost 30% of money from the endowment funds. Research, right? When you do research, Stanford charges 50% as overhead, more than 50% as overhead out of research grants given to faculty. That again forms a pool, which is like a quarter of their money comes from the overheads charged on the research grants. In India, the overheads charged on research grants are 5% or 5 lakh rupees, whichever is higher kind of. I mean, if it is if the 5% becomes 20 lakhs, right, you still cannot only charge more than 5 lakh rupees kind of a thing. So therefore, you do more research, you actually, don't gain anything. The university doesn't get anything. The faculty members do research, publish papers, university gets nothing. And institute spends more money to manage the resources created out of research projects. At IIT Delhi, we did a study. It costs about 11% to manage a research project in terms of the facilities, people, electricity, in all of that. Institute gets 5% as the overhead. So you spend more money in managing a research project than you earn as a university, right? So therefore, research is not sustainable. Increasing student strength is not sustainable, right? Then how would you, ever expand the scale, the base? How do you ever do more research if these things are not even sustainable in a system? So I think these are all fundamental problems that are holding the institutions back. The administrative autonomy, there is no autonomy in these institutions. Though there is a board and all of that, but every board has a ministry nominee, right? And his or her word is the veto. I mean, if the person says, write to me, and then you have no choice. Now, you may have the chairman of the board, our chairman of board was Kumar Mangalam Birla, and you may have Kumar Mangalam Birla as chairman of the board, but if ministry representative says, no, you write to me, then you have to write to the ministry, and then no response will ever come, and that means that that agenda item is shelved forever. That is how we are managing our institution. So these flaws need to be corrected, right? If without that, you can tinker with the system, you can do some whatever you could within that time frame, but unless these fundamental flaws in the way we manage our higher educational institutions are corrected, I think, Indian institutions will never become Stanford's or Harvard's. And the diversified financial model, right, and more outcome-based funding, these are very fundamental to, changing the way we support our education. And I think it needs to happen. I hope, in fact, Prime Minister the current Prime Minister, Narendra Modi ji, I think he's a reformer, right? But unfortunately, the kind of people he is surrounded with, nobody is telling him any of these problems. That's my major issue with them. I think the things which he has understood, like the business, the GST, all of those reforms they are carrying out because he understands some of that. But there is no one actually telling him what is holding our institutions back, what reforms we need to bring about in our higher education sector. NEP is a great document. The National Education Policy of 2020 is a great, start, right? But the implementation, the execution is what is we need right now. And if we can implement NEP in the right spirit in which, all of that was written, and with a national level, body which is empowered, reporting directly to PM, I can tell you we can transform this higher education sector in the country. And I feel sad because, there is so much of potential. There is so much of latent talent in these institutions. In fact, IIT Delhi during the COVID time, right? I mean, that is what I often give as an example. An institute which, all institutions we say, you are not doing anything and, you are not supporting the nation and you are not developing technology. But during the COVID time, the peak of COVID time, IIT Delhi filed more patents than any time in its history, over 150 patents in that year. And then IIT Delhi technologies, which were licensed to industries, were helping almost 15 million people benefited from IIT Delhi technologies during the COVID time. What was that? We had an antigen kit, 50 rupee antigen kit launched by Government of India, Ministry of Education. We had an RT-PCR developed at IIT Delhi, and which we said you can do tests for 350 rupees. When in the market it was 4,000, 5,000 rupees. We launched a complete RT-PCR kit from IIT Delhi during the peak of COVID, costing 350 rupees. Immediately all the prices of RT-PCR, fell. And then the mask we developed, the complete suits we developed for COVID, all of that happened out of one single institute. Why? Why did it happen during COVID time? Because we said during the COVID time, everybody will work on one problem, right? I mean, there was no point in doing research on anything else when COVID was the major issue at that time. So we said, anyone who wants to work on COVID, you can stay back. We will support you internally. And the faculty stayed back, called their PhD students and worked focusedly on COVID. And that technology during a few months' time, right? There was urgency, there was national interest, and there was a national emergency. And the one institute could impact so many lives, with such deep technologies. And that is what that should happen during the normal time. When will it happen during the normal time? Government has to set priorities. It needs to set these grand challenges. These are the 5 challenges in India, right? And you form groups, institutions can come together, solve these grand challenges. These grand challenges need to be perfectly identified down to the last detail. You do that, this country will actually transform itself when it comes to the way the research is done. Look at ISRO. The same people go to ISRO, but ISRO is able to do very well, right? Launching satellites, even DRDO, right? Doing very well. The only reason these strategic missions succeed is because of the focus they have. In ISRO, you may have 12 labs, 13 labs. Everybody is focusing on launching a satellite, right? There is no other thing. You might do any number of things, but if your technology doesn't get into satellite, doesn't go to space, you have done nothing. Once you set that focused objective, India has done very well. That's exactly what we need now for higher education. So setting those priorities, setting those higher education challenges, the grand challenges, and working collaboratively, but that needs to be top driven, right? So I think there is so much of potential, but India is not able to utilize that potential, because of our lack of that willingness to make those bold reforms in the way we do research, in the way we run these institutions, in the way we fund these institutions. I think some of these, I hope, will happen in the near future, at least in the next 5 years, competently.
So, Professor, the message is loud and clear. The need of the hour is structural reforms in the educational, higher educational sector. I could definitely sense that anguish, that despair, that passion to change that. I hope the powers to be are listening to this outcry of the industry and going to do something. Having said that, Professor, what also intrigues me is there's no dearth of intellectuals in this country. Why are we not able to create a coalition of willing and make these changes happen rather than getting the government to bat an eyelid on this? What can all the intellectuals come together on a common platform stage to force this conversation, to force these changes to happen? So, as we wrap up this part of our conversation with Professor Rao, we've journeyed through his inspiring early life, from studying in Telugu to finding his calling as a teacher, and his bold vision for transforming India's higher education with reforms as seismic as the 91 economic shift. The story doesn't end here. In the next part, stay tuned as we explore how to prepare for a career in an age where AI is reshaping everything. Stay tuned.